After 4 years, entertainment media finally admits what everyone already knew. Captain Marvel only made $1 billion because of Avengers Endgame. Took you long enough. I saw this MovieWeb article making the rounds, and I thought I'd comment on it because it has a telling observation buried in the middle of it. The article is about de-aging VFX in films, and whether seeing old actors de-aged might remind people of their better performances. You know, actors like Michael Douglas. Jesus Christ! That man is old. Looks like he wrapped his face in Madonna's badge. But that's not what this video is about, thank God. No, I want to talk about this section tucked away in the article. Quote, Captain Marvel didn't make $1 billion on its own merit. No. Really? Whoever could have guessed? Could it have been me 4 years ago? 'Cause I think it was. It was painfully obvious that nobody, not a single soul, was interested in Captain Mary Sue but for the Endgame tie-in. The shill media, however, pretended that wasn't true, and that the film making $1 billion was proof of its beloved status. Well, now MovieWeb is apparently allowed to tell the truth. Quote, it is true that Captain Marvel made north of $1 billion at the box office. However, this figure would never have been so high if the highly anticipated Avengers Endgame was not looming with the release date only a month and a half later. Oh, it was a little more complex than that. Disney promoted Captain Marvel as must-see if you wanted to understand Endgame, as if it directly tied into Endgame, when the truth was that there was a tangential connection. Carol appears in Endgame a handful of times, mostly in the beginning and at the end, where she gets pimp-slapped by Thanos to the thunderous applause of audiences across the world. I've yet to see a single video where people weren't cheering when she got popped, and remember, her movie was barely 2 months old. People did not like this woman, and they didn't like her movie, which makes this bit from MovieWeb all the funnier. Quote, this is not to say that Captain Marvel is a bad movie. Yes, and you can be healthy at any weight too. Two things that totally aren't true. As good as the film is, there simply is no chance that Captain Marvel would have made that much money if Marvel fans hadn't been rabid for the follow-up to the MCU's downbeat cliffhanger from Avengers Infinity War, which smacks of the ending from The Empire Strikes Back. That's also not true because Ant-Man and the Wasp came out between the Avengers films, but it didn't crack $1 billion. Like I said, it was the marketing of Captain Marvel as a must-see film that hyped people up to see it. However, once the film came out, people weren't impressed. The two biggest talking points from the film was how unlikable Captain Mary Sue was, and the damn cat scratching out Nick Fury's eye. Otherwise, nobody talked about this movie. The same goes for Black Panther, which opened at the start of 2018. For all the hype about the super diverse all-black cast, no one talks about anything from this film. All three of the not-Avengers films that year were thoroughly forgettable. Now, I agree with MovieWeb that Kevin Feige deserves credit for hyping a mediocre film to the point that it made $1 billion. I don't agree with this part. Quote, it's genuinely surprising that no other Hollywood studio has ripped off the Captain Marvel marketing strategy. No, not really. What other franchise has the hype like the MCU did? The closest would have been Star Wars, but Disney foobarred that to death. The next would have been the DCEU, but we know how that turned out. Nothing else is remotely close to the level that Infinity War and Endgame were at. In order to copy that success, a studio needs something people want to see. Other than a live-action crossover with Marvel and DC, there's nothing that would bring it out of people like that again. Even Disney can't copy its own success. Phase 4 was a whole lot of meh, with Spider-Man No Way Home being the sole shining gem. And the bad part is that Phase 4 didn't flop. That would have at least been something. No, it's worse. It was bland. Not unwatchable, but not great either. Just so forgettable in every way. And that trend seems to have continued with the last Ant-Man movie, which underperformed at a $450 million return. Maybe the next Guardians of the Galaxy film might bring people back, but it's already looking bad for the Marvels, who claims that Brie Larson has gone full diva mode on set. That might have something to do with Marvel Studios and Disney positioning Larson as a new lead for the whole MCU franchise. Now it's blowing up in their face since neither the character nor the actress got over with fans. It's almost like it takes time to build up a fan-favorite character, and you need an actor with great charisma to make that work. We'll see what happens with the MCU over the course of the year. The big question now is what they're going to do with the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and how badly they're going to jack that up trying to play identity politics, which will be all the more idiotic with the X-Men since the team is so diverse it makes New York look like Sweden. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.